Okay, so you can see there I've got most of the walls and the main elements like the openings, the doors and windows drawn on this basement level. And just so you can see, I've put them in on the levels above as well, but the model's still nowhere near complete. So there's still a lot more work I need to do to finish the building off, mainly putting the roofs on and then all our openings on these upper levels. But I've started to tie the levels together and get an idea how the different walls relate to each other and sit on top of each other, and then you can get a good idea how the building does work, because you'll see then, for example, why this wall on the ground floor is set back from the wall on the level below. It's so that you can have a skylight along that side that gives you light to those bedrooms, because they don't have any windows on that level. And that's again for a reason, because you have this retaining wall which is holding back the earth to this side of the building, and this is all at a fairly low level. So windows there wouldn't really make a lot of sense, and also they're quite close to the boundary as well. So obviously I'm going to go and complete all of this later, adding in all that extra detail. But even at this stage, just with those main walls drawn, you can start to get some good use out of this model and produce things like some isolated 3D views showing individual rooms, and also floor plans that do the same thing to show you finishes and other things that you might want to without showing the entire building. So just by inserting some furniture to begin with using component, and then load family, and then furniture, and in the beds folder I know there are some standard size beds. Now I've already inserted that one, so I'll just choose it from the list over there. And so that's a common issue if you've loaded a family already and you don't see it come up. Also, if you go to load a family and then you don't see it come up in properties here, it doesn't mean that it's not loading, it just means you've loaded it previously and you've got to go and choose it from the list there. So that's a common thing that can trip people up. So this room, probably a queen size bed, is about the largest size you'd want. And so I'll put this over against this wall here. That'll do for now. Now I can substitute that for a more detailed bed later, but for now that'll do. And then I'm going to go to my default 3D view. You can always click on the house button to do that, or just open it if you have it already in your project browser. And then straight away I'm going to duplicate that view by right clicking, and then duplicate view and duplicate. So I've got copy of 3D, and then I'm going to right click on that new view and go to rename, and I'll give it a more meaningful name because this is going to be a cutaway view. I'll call it 3D cutaway. And then to make it, or to let me cut things away, in the view properties, I'm going to turn on section box. And you'll see then it'll give you this cube, or this rectangular prism, I suppose, that goes around the building. And once you select it, you can then use the arrows on each side to adjust what it's cutting. So I'm bringing that in, so it's just going to show that room that I've been working in. So I'll bring that down at the top as well. So I'll bring that to the back, and so that's getting there. I could even go back further. And now my door, well, that actually is just opening into this area where I don't want to see it, so I'm going to go back to the plan. And yeah, I'll flip that, so by right clicking with that door selected, I can go to flip hand, and that's changed the direction. It's also moved the door across, so I'm just going to use the arrow key and move that back to the right. That's probably better anyway. And so then in my cutaway section, or 3D cutaway view now, I can't see that door anymore. And now I can keep adjusting the view. And you probably noticed that it's got the part where the wall's being cut, and the floor as well, showing red. Now that's a view setting, and rather than go into all of the different view settings that you have where you can adjust those things, if you notice something like that, sometimes it's easier to just reset the view to the default settings by right-clicking on the view name and then going to Apply Template Properties. So once you've chosen that, just accept the default there, which is Architectural Presentation 3D. I'll just click OK, and you'll see then it's going to reset all of those view properties. Now it's showing the wall cavity there, which I don't really want to see, so I'm going to go down on the view control bar and change it back to coarse, where, it's using the red cut pattern there, so let's go to medium and we'll set that in the wall itself. So we've got a funny component there. Oh, that's actually not too bad, sorry. I'm going to leave that. I thought it was showing the materials, but that's not far off. What we'd have is just the cavity there's a strange thickness. I'll make that 50, and then the other one, so it's meant to be 290 altogether. Probably going a bit far here with the finishes, but I'll add in a render layer on the outside, which will be 10 mil, and then change that to some sort of paint finish. I'll go through the materials more in a minute, but I just want to get something set. In fact, I'll just use plasterboard here, and then I'll insert another layer. Actually, before I do that, I'll just set the what I've made to finish 1. This second layer can be left as finish, even though it's brickwork. And this is fine as thermal layer. Then the core is going to be again 110, and left as structure, and then I can insert my final layer, move it down to the bottom, make it 10, and set that to finish 2. And again, just set that to plasterboard. So there we go. And that's a bit better. You probably don't need to show all of that detail. You can just keep it as simple walls if you don't have that, but if you've gone and set your wall properties, you can always adjust those. So I'll bring this section box back a little bit further and just cut that wall away so we can see inside the room. There we go. And then using the same approach with the floor, I'll just select the floor, edit type, and I might want this to have a timber finish. So I'll duplicate the floor type and give it a new name. I'll call it timber, or we'll keep it as concrete, but then with a timber finish. And then again, back to edit the structure and insert to add a new layer. Move that up to the top, change the thickness there, so I'll make this 20 mil, change the function to finish 2. And if you're wondering what finish 1 and finish 2 are for, finish 1's for exterior finishes and finish 2's for interior, basically. Okay, so to make a new material, I'm going to browse and then scroll down and find a timber material. Any of these timber materials will do to start with. I'm going to right click and duplicate that material, and I'll call that timber floor. Will do. And then on appearance, I'm going to right click right where it says appearance and go to replace, and then in the appearance folder go to flooring and then wood, where I know there are a stack of timber materials. Okay, so I'll just choose one of those, double click, and that'll bring it in to my current material. So there it is, beechwood honey, which is part of timber floor now. And then back to graphics, I'll continue the setup there. Firstly, I'll just click on the colour swatch to set the colour I want for the shaded views. And then the surface pattern, where it's got none, I'll go to model and then change the pattern there to just horizontal 150mm. Okay, so that material's now done, not just for this floor, but for any other floors that I need it for as well. So you can see in the shaded view, it's showing the shaded colour with those 150mm lines. If I go to realistic, it'll show the flooring image. I'll go back to shaded. And then with the section box selected, I might hide that now. So if I right click with it selected, I can go to hide in view elements. Then to add maybe some visual interest to the wall, I'll put a decal onto that to add a picture. So on the insert tab, go to decal, and then using create new decal at the bottom, you can give it a name, so I'll just call it picture 1. Browse to the right, and you can choose any image that you've saved. So I've got some here. I'll just choose one of these. So any JPEG file, bitmap, PNG, any of those raster image formats will work. Okay, so I'll just click OK, and then you can place it on any surface. So any wall or floor surfaces usually work the best. You can pick up other things like furniture as well, but walls and floors generally do work the best. So I'll just place that onto this wall here, and you can see that it's not showing me the image. You have to be in a realistic view to see that. So now I can select the image or the decal and stretch that to change the size. Right, so then to get some, maybe that's a bit large actually. Okay, so then to get some maybe extra furniture, you've obviously got all those Revit sites for things like this that probably a lot of you have found already, like Revit City. So I'll just show you if you haven't tried that already. Revit City is a great resource, and there are plenty of others, but Revit City is one of the biggest ones. So in Revit City, you need to log in to download things, but once you do log in, you can then download all sorts of things. And so you'll see there in the downloads section, if you go to furnishings, you have a lot of custom-made furniture you can easily download, and it's a pretty decent-sized library, but it won't maybe have all of the designer things that you might be after. And you might find that the SketchUp library, which is the 3D warehouse, has a bit more. SketchUp does have a pretty big user base because it's free basically. So you've got a lot of users making these things and again uploading them for free. So I've just gone to the SketchUp 3D warehouse and then done a search for chairs, and I'm just going to download one of these. So I'll try this one. So I'll just save that into my folder. Yep, that'll do. Okay, so then in Revit, on the Insert tab, you can go to Import CAD and then change the file type down the bottom to SKP, which is SketchUp, and find the file. There it is. Okay, so there's the model. So I'll just drag that over into the bedroom there where I want it to be. So then in the 3D view there, now we can see that as well. Now the materials don't come in all that well. That's one of the limitations with the SketchUp models. You won't get the materials set up the way they are in SketchUp, usually, depending on how it's been made, but usually they won't come through. But it still gives you a pretty good idea of the geometry. And so then we can use the same approach in plan. So just to show that area in plan, back to that original basement floor plan. And again, I can, well, there's a couple of approaches here. You can look at using these things called call-outs to make areas that are going to be referenced from the main floor plan. But that might be going too far. If you just want to use it to get some views to show just parts of your floor plan initially, it's often an idea just to duplicate the whole floor plan. And I'm not going to use duplicate with detailing this time, I'm just going to use duplicate, which will give me a copy of the view without the text and the other things that I've added to the original. So I've got here copy of basement, which I'll right click and rename and call basement bedroom 1. Okay, so you can see it there in the list of views. And then with the crop regions, similar to a section box in 3D, you've got crop regions that work in 2D. And so make sure you realise you've got the two buttons for those on the view control bar. The one with the light bulb and that crop icon will turn the crop region on if it isn't already visible. And now I can see this rectangle, which I can use to crop out the parts of that view that I don't want to see. Now notice it's not taking anything away, and that's because it's still not active. So I'm going to turn it on with the button next to that, which makes the cropping actually active or not active. 12:30.
Can you come and help me afterwards?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Okay, so I'm then just going to keep adjusting the crop region so that it shows just that room. And we can continue using the same approach you would have for other things, hiding elements like these reference planes. I'm right-clicking and hiding the whole category, which will help tidy the view up. And then you can also, if you want to, hide the crop region even, just to get rid of that border. And you can add or change the graphics, so I can set this view to realistic, just like the 3D view. And you can also, of course, add things like text to these views. So on the Annotate tab, you have the text button, and then you can choose your text size. 3.5 might be alright, actually. So this is bedroom 1. Now you can see the text there looks really big. Oops. And that's because partly because of the size. You can see there it's 3.5 mil. And you might think, well, that's not very big text. It's also because of the scale. So then I'm going to change this to maybe 1 to 20 or maybe 1 to 50. And you can see that'll change the text relative to the view. And so that way I could have even things dimensioned on this plan. So if I change this, yep, that's wall faces. and so I can put some quick dimensions in there. That's been drawn, so I've drawn the dimension, but it must be hidden, so it came in with that warning. And when that happens, you can click on the light bulb down the bottom to show hidden elements. And you can see there, that's my dimension. So if I select it, it'll give me the option to unhide category. So now it's no longer in that pink colour that shows that it's hidden. So back to close, and also to close the reveal mode with the light bulb. Now I can see my dimension and just go and draw in some more. And maybe just some over here might help. So that might be the sort of thing you'd want to show in the floor plan. And obviously I can keep adding things in this view, so or adjusting things in this view. So if I move that furniture back, then of course, oops, that's a bit too far. Okay, so then of course the 3D view is going to be updated as well. Right, so that's a really good way of creating individual views. You can also have a perspective view, so a perspective of that bedroom might be a bit tight, but you can probably still create one. So I'll just finish up with that with a camera view. So using the drop down on the quick access toolbar, you can go to camera, and I'll just put it right in the corner there, and then look out towards the rear. Okay, so it's at the moment showing things above that I don't really want to see because I haven't put a ceiling in yet, but there's no problem with just adjusting the crop region to show the parts that you want to. Now, at the moment, it's showing the bed there below the camera. So, to make that view a bit less unusual, it might be an idea to then use the steering wheel or the navigation wheel on the right. So, to just control that camera, I'm going to pan and bring that view up a little bit. And I can also use look and just look around and change that camera view as I need to. But with these bedrooms, getting perspectives is going to be difficult because they're such tight spaces. But with realistic there, yeah, you can see that it's at least giving some idea of that that space. I'll show you some other tricks later on to get perspective views of tight spaces like that, but it can be difficult with those small rooms to do perspectives from inside. But definitely with just a simple plan like that, you can do those for each room. And then a cutaway view, so this is probably going to be better with a name like 3D cutaway, you know, bed 1 or something like that. Right, so hopefully that'll help you get the individual views that you need. Let's finish that.